It's Wild West Exodus 2nd edition week here on BC4 and we have some amazing prizes up for grabs. We have no less than 10 sets to give away which include everything you need to play the game. Winners will be able to choose between the Warrior Nation, Lawman, Enlightened, Union or Outlaw sets for their prize. Get your comments in on all of the Wild West Exodus content this week on BC4.com, YouTube or Facebook for your chance to win. Winners are announced in a future episode of The Weekender, so stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome back to Wild West Exodus week here on BC4. I am joined by Chris and Stu, and today we are talking the Union, winners of the Civil War in this world. And in real life, of course.
Did they? Yes. They did. And don't they not stop going on about it? So the Union have come out of a horrendous civil war. The country shattered. And they spent the last 10 years rebuilding, restructuring, but also solidifying their grip on the nation, making sure that with a strong military, particularly a strong inwardly facing military, they can
inwardly facing?
Yeah, it's about the Union Army is very rarely deployed outside of the United States in Wild West Exodus. It's mostly there to maintain order with a small o across the country. You have your various soldiers, your riflemen.
Yeah, so properly fully trained soldiers.
Absolutely. Well, this is the thing about the Union. So every faction has its own thing, or has its own play style. The Union is your proper organised military force. Yeah, they're not a shattered ramshackle band of guys or survivors. They're not self-empowered individuals leading small militias
or piece together constructs, or deputized locals,
tribal forces. This is a proper military army with excellent technology, excellent training, discipline, strategy, leaders, objectives. This is the army faction, as it were. So you have riflemen. And then you have people units like your skirmishers, and they all have a particular function in the battle plans of the Union. They are a professional army, as it were.
So I'm expecting these soldiers to be reasonably fit, good for actually just holding on to the nerve to get through the battle.
Yep.
And if they're well trained, that means they're going to be good at shooting and at least reasonably handy in a fight. Absolutely.
And they have their own, they're all round reasonable. They're not extraordinary. Bearing in mind that you've got fantastical creatures and other beings in the world.
They're not superhuman.
No. But as far as humans go, they're not quite to the level of the Lawman Ranger or something like that, but they're certainly a chalk above of a deputy or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they are the backbone. A Union army will have lots of Union troops.
Right.
Okay, that is the way that they function. But like any army or like any force, the bosses have their own themes on things. But let's stick with the most common way that you would encounter the Union. So the not poster boy. This is the last thing you'd want to do with Grant, would be put him on a poster. So you have Odysseus Grant, who is the general, who is the commander of the of most of the military operations for the Union. Grant is very rarely seen, or certainly he's not seen in public with his mask off. Grant was very badly burned after the Civil War. Grant was very badly burned and should have died in a fire. But he didn't. He survived. He has third-degree burns over about 80-90% of his body. So he should not survive. That's not how people go.
Yeah, that's not exactly how the human body works.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was he kind of pulled within himself, and he managed to draw out some kind of hidden inner strength he didn't even realise he had, and it meant that he could survive something which absolutely should have been mortal.
This sounds suspicious.
Yes. So Grant, he's not consciously aware of it. What he thinks of is his own personal reservoir of indomitable will. He does have an indomitable will, and that keeps him in control. However, he is alive today because of the malign influence of the hex. So Grant is tainted. And so what that means is that he's post his burning and resurrection, he's incredibly aggressive in terms of his military strategy. He's merciless. No surrender is his mantra.
This sounds perfectly reasonable to me from what I understand the Union would want from a military leader.
Yes, he's just as successful as a military leader after he was badly disfigured as he was before. The only difference is that the civilian casualties are horrendously high now compared to what they would have been before.
So rebels are holding that fort. Burn it. But there's civilians in there, sir. Burn it.
Rebels have gone into that town, or that village, that settlement. Shell the settlement.
Okay.
Well, but there are people, women and children in there. Well, they're not fighting the rebels. So if they're not fighting the rebels, then they're with the rebels. So shell them. Yeah, yes, very much the cut of his jib.
Okay.
So that's Grant.
And I'm expecting just masses of Union infantry with him.
Largely, and also artillery.
Support,
Artillery. Anything shock and awe is his way of looking at things.
Okay.
Now, somebody else that specialises in more the shock than anything else would be Tesla. So Nikola Tesla was formerly a member of the Enlightened.
Yes.
He, during the Civil War, so Tesla is an absolute genius, and he's a master of electricity. However, the one thing he actually doesn't like is war. He thinks war is horrendous. The idea of the destruction, that it's wasteful, and actually the human cost. He doesn't like that either. So he realised that the way the Enlightened were supporting the Civil War in order to achieve their own objectives and further their own territory gains, that it was going to eventually, the Civil War was just going to escalate, and it was going to get bigger and bigger and more violent until America would be ash. It would go beyond the infrastructure would be so shattered that there would be no victor. And yes, okay, that would be probably ideal for the Enlightened, because then the Enlightened could have stepped in.
This is our land now.
Yeah, indeed, and there would have been nobody to stop them, because it would have been Washington would have been obliterated. All the major cities would have burned to the ground.
I suppose surely there would have been outside nations looking to move in on it, but I suppose by that stage they have enough material. I say material, I mean flesh, human flesh, to actually create massive armies.
They do, and the Enlightened aren't only in America. There are Enlightened in Europe. There are Enlightened elsewhere in the world.
I see.
So there are, in the same way that while the Civil War was raging and the Enlightened were solidifying their power in America, in Europe with effectively the collapsing empire of the crown and other things going on, the Enlightened have seen an opportunity to curry favour and to gain certain things over there. So there is a grander plan at work. What they hadn't anticipated was that one of their number would betray them, and we don't know quite why Tesla chose the Union over the Confederacy. Maybe we'll never know, or maybe we're going to cover it in a vignette at some point. But certainly, he took all of his secrets and he took all of his genius and he backed the Union. And what that did, because the Enlightened had a policy of supporting both sides equally, what it did, within a month, it destabilised the status quo, and the Union managed to achieve supremacy, and the Confederates surrendered.
Now, one thing I am noticing for this character, looking at the artwork, I am seeing no RJ-1027 on this character.
That's correct.
I assume his supply is cut off because he betrayed Carpathians.
That is correct.
And he's now having to figure out ways to make his technology run without it.
Well, you see, the thing that made him the most dangerous within the Enlightened, and actually the reason why he was able to break, is because his technology, he has another power source. His stuff doesn't run on, he has his own Tesla generators, which enable his technology to function. So they function without RJ powering it. it's still he doesn't have the full, even with his support of the Union, he doesn't have the ability to have kind of rolled that out across the entirety. It's still in its early days, but certainly Tesla and any of the equipment that directly falls under his devices and his devising is using his Tesla generation, his Tesla energy, rather than RJ. But the Union is still reliant on RJ for the vast majority of its technology. Yeah,
but no, that to me that looks like something I would like to explore within the world. Is actually maybe building a force around Tesla and actually seeing how far could I actually take it narratively without using RJ tech.
Yep, absolutely. Well, his theme Posse has so he has Tesla bots and he has various automata and other devices that run on his Tesla energy and use basically like shock weapons and things like that. So it's more the electrical based stuff.
That sounds fun.
He's also been behind the Union Bell program, which is Union Bell is a publicity figurehead type character to boost the morale of the troops. She does the she does the circuits, making sure that the morale of the men is high and all this kind of stuff. But she's even though she's kind of like USO show kind of woman. Actually, though, her armor being steel and on her back you can't see, but she has a Tesla generator on her back.
Oh, okay.
So she's more than capable of handling herself in the field, and does indeed. So yeah, Union Bell is an important addition to the Union arsenal. She's a face. She can take it in any of the posses, but she works particularly well with Tesla.
Ooh, interesting. Very interesting.
There are other bosses as well. So we have Willa Shaw.
My favourite model from the entire range.
So Willa Shaw is a new breed of daring go-getter. She's bright, she's inquisitive, so everything you don't want in a Union officer, really. Well, because fundamentally, when you've got generals and things like Grant and other people who are giving these very clear orders on what to do, what they don't want is somebody using sort of self-determination and kind of interpreting the rules and the instructions and things. So she's a major in the Union Army. She's given command of her own particular detachment, and they're all mounted on iron horses. So they're a very mobile, fast-hitting force. But they are absolutely, in some ways, that's been done because of the way that she is. She's unlikely to advance. It's not because she's a woman, because that's not really a thing in the Exodus world.
More personality thing.
Yeah, it's more about the fact that she doesn't show the appropriate level of respect to people whose orders she doesn't quite agree with, and so effectively what they've done is they've sidelined her into her own little specialist unit.
Yeah, like a scouting force.
And that's where she's going to stay. But actually it gives her the freedom. So when she's on the back of her iron horse, she's thundering across the plains, she's free. And she has responsibility for the men and women under her command. Yeah. But she doesn't have to worry about anything else. And she just focuses on the task at hand. So in that way, actually she's quite happy that she doesn't she's unlikely to get promoted ever again.
Yeah, and doesn't have to deal with the higher ups.
Indeed.
Who are maybe giving questionable orders.
Yeah, absolutely right. She's a really interesting character. She's also quite good because she ranges quite far away from the majority of the Union Army at times. Quite often she will come into contact with other characters. I mean, it might be Doc Holliday, or it might be some of the Warrior Nation, or so on in her various engagements and things. Sometimes she makes new allies, sometimes she finds a new enemy, but a really interesting character from a narrative point of view.
And a beautiful piece of art and a beautiful model at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, she's great. She's a favourite of some of the people in the studio for sure.
Yeah. Who else do we have? Ooh, wow.
Albert Campbell. So Colonel Campbell is from the engineering corps. So it's a mixture of road building, bridge building, blowing things up, doing whatever needs doing. He's he's respected by the men and women in the engineering corps. He gets the job done. His skills are in high demand, so quite often Grant or one of the more senior commanders will request the support of Campbell to achieve, to either breach a fortress or help build a fortress or whatever it is that's needed to be done.
I do not want to shake that hand. That really might hurt.
Yeah, that's a servo claw. He's no nonsense, but he's firm and fair though, and the men his particular theme force enables him to do things like demolitions and fortifications and things like that. So again, on the table, you can effectively start to fortify parts of the parts of your environment as you're playing.
That could be very, very useful because you do know I like hiding in houses. They're just awesome in game. Awesome.
Well, that's always good. Then you'll get other characters. I mean, some of the faces. So the Union, the way it's characterised, you will have a lot of senior commanders. You'll have a smattering of faces, so kind of mid-level lieutenants and sergeants and things, and then the vast majority of the rest of the force will be rank and file, will be troops.
Yeah.
Unlike, say, the Lawmen, which I know is one of Chris's favourites, where they're very much character heavy. So it's more about the faces, and you'll have a few units or troops to support them.
Yeah, that does change up how you play your games a lot, though. Whenever you have different forces have different levels of, yes, we all have bosses, maybe 2 bosses, and then smattering of faces or a lot of faces.
Yep.
That will change the tactics incredibly on the tabletop. At least that's what I think.
No, you are right. And one of the things that I know when we've been playing, there's a particular tactic that you can do with faces, whereas the Union doesn't tend to have a great deal of faces usually. That's something. Do you want to talk a little bit about teamwork?
Yeah. We have touched on it in previous factions, but the essentially faces can chain activate.
Yes.
And the adventure cards and some of the special abilities, you can work together to activate without allowing your opponent to take an activation.
Yes, that run of it's the Scooby-Doo thing. We have a plan set up and the trap goes off, so it's boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And things just happen in a run. Yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
Got it. So who's this then?
Well, I was going to say, the Union can't do that.
Oh, right.
Because they don't have very many faces.
Yep.
However, those faces that they do have, like Edith Lavorne here, are very well equipped because they tend to be sergeants or she's a lieutenant, and they do tend to be very well equipped to work well with the squads or whatever that are under their command. So they can't do one of Chris's favourites, which is that the team working synergy in quite the same way, say, the Lawmen can, but they have a different version of it that they can do, which is more about the much more limited number of officers that they have working with these blocks of infantry and things that they command.
So it feels like proper military coordination on the tabletop then?
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, even though Wild West Exodus is a skirmish game, what you get with the Union is more of a historical, I suppose, wargamey army where you have all this rank and file and you advance and lay down covering fire and that would appeal to a lot of people, I think.
Tanks.
Tanks. Yeah.
Who doesn't love tanks?
Transports, stuff, all the military, the mobile
All
infantry.
the
Yeah.
And then these guys get the jetbikes as well, which I think are just a fantastic model kit from the entire range. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Especially without the cow head strapped to the front.
The Iron Horses are a signature part, and again, so Willa Shaw, her entire faction, her entire theme posse can have those.
Yeah.
Last one we're going to talk about today.
Mr. Custer.
Yeah, Armstrong Custer. He is he's an interesting character. So Custer. So I mentioned about that you have like a smattering of like junior officers and things.
Yes.
Custer doesn't want any part of that.
Right.
It's him.
Yeah.
It's all about him.
Right.
And the men, or the men and the women. Yeah, the people that follow him.
Okay.
That's it. He is. I don't know if you ever watched Blackadder. You'd have like Lord Flashheart,
Yes.
or you have Flashman, or whoever it will be. You have these characters who are. It's all about them. Yeah, they are. I mean, we say you're the star of your own story. Custer is convinced he's the star of other people's story as well. It's absolutely all about him.
Yeah.
He loves the men, he loves the women, he loves everybody, because they're all going to be fawning over him and seeing how fantastic he is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember there was, again, some of the backstory I was reading ages ago. I think Custer actually got sidelined to one of the forts where Tesla was working on some new weapons, or had been working on new weapons. And it was actually really interesting to see him, reading about him, how he was feeling tired, dejected, because he had been sidelined. You know, him standing on the battlements, looking out, wanting to be out there in the West where the thick of the fighting and the action, and where he could actually, you know, start forging his legend to even greater heights.
Yeah, that's Custer. He's not an unpleasant man, because he's not doing anything out of spite or malice. No. But the problem is just everybody dies around him. So he will see like the forlorn hope. He will see this. Yeah, we're going to storm the fort, and he'll look at the men and go, "Tell you what, men, we're going to go and get that fort. Yeah, let's. You grab the colours, in we go." And and the thing is, Custer is charmed. He seems to lead this magical existence where the enemy can't seem to lay a glove on him. So all these shots are ringing out. His guys, their heads are exploding like watermelons all around him and stuff like that. He's getting showered in viscera and whatever else. But he's okay. He's there. He's fighting away.
Yeah.
He'll win, and then he'll drink a toast to the men in the mess afterwards.
He's charmed.
Yeah.
Just looking back down at the mound of corpses beneath him, going, "You fought well."
Yeah. Well done, lads. And he might have used the mountain of dead men under his command, maybe to breach the wall at one. Maybe he's standing on top of them with the colours. He is. Bizarrely, the men still love him. He's just this fantastic character, absolutely larger than life. And again, on the table, really, because the way he plays. So there's the fortune mechanic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He has a fortune of 8.
Yes.
Which is
phenomenal.
Higher than anybody in the game.
Yeah. And it's double most bosses.
Yeah. Yeah, unless the bosses are really good. I mean, like, whenever I see a boss with maybe 5 fortune, I think, you're handy.
Yeah, he's
with 8 going, what?
He's amazing.
Yeah.
But he knows it, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the Union.
That's the Union. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. Out of all the factions we've chatted about so far, I think this is the one that calls out to me the most. I love the idea of having a regimented force on the tabletop. I like the idea of having iron horses flying all across the place, maybe grab a couple of locusts or something like that. Having Grant rocking in with his men and all the big cannons and the artillery. Yeah, that's for me. Everybody, tell you what, get your comments in below. Is the Union for you? We will move on here, and we will see you in the next one. Hi everyone, we hope you're enjoying this themed week. Make sure you don't miss any of it by checking out the playlist, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button to ding our dong so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, come across and join us on beastsofwar.com for more great gaming content and a fantastic community. Also, get your comments in for your chance to win.